Greetings everyone, welcome back to my sketchbook. I am taking a moment to sit down and kind of finish up, well, almost a week's worth of drawing with how to train your dragon. And maybe I'm going to do a little bit of correction on this thing too. I wanted to originally have these wings kind of curl a little bit, and I didn't do that, so I'm going to see if I can kind of do that a little bit here, and it may not work out, but that's okay. Kind of like if you look at your hands like that. I kind of wanted these to do that, so let's see if I can do that very quickly. May not go the way I really want it to. That is okay. Let's do that one there too. Let's zoom in on that a little bit so you can see what I did. And we'll see if we can lock it down a little bit too, because I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. All right. I'm adding a little bit more ink to that, and then we'll shade it after the fact if at all possible. So I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, and now that it's truly summer, I hope you find a way to stay cool out there, depending on where you are, of course. If you're in Alaska, or, well, even if you're in like Australia, the weather's a little bit different where you are. And I kind of forget that sometimes, that not everyone has the same seasons. Okay. Now, just going to add a little bit of water on this paintbrush. So today I actually had a moment where I got to meet one of the greatest Minecraft players on the planet. So again, hello Hudson. Pretty cool guy. Here's a secret that some of you may or may not know when it comes to getting out there and having a decent lunch. If you have a Costco anywhere near you, they still have hot dogs on for like $1.50. I don't know if you can get a cheaper lunch than that. That's outrageous, don't you think? Anyway, so I'm just going to kind of finish up a little bit with Toothless here, so that it kind of makes sense to just leave it alone for a little while. So I'm going to let that dry, and then down here I'm going to put in another little friend, something else that I kind of worked on before as a concept. I'll set this cup out of the way, dip my pen, and And let's see what we can do, and hope that's kind of zoomed in nice enough. All right, well, we'll see how it goes. I'm drawing the smallest little goggles that I can. Well, I could probably draw smaller than that. But I want this to be relative size to Toothless here. Now I could have it so that he's actually closer. But I don't need to do that. This is pretty small though. So if you had a chance to look at that other little silly video I made about a Minion playing hockey and having an unfortunate accident, that's what this is going to be in reference to. Now, typically, Minions don't have chins. This one decided that it needed to go through a process of experimentation, maybe. I don't know. And plus, Minions are fun to draw. Although typically I don't draw them quite so small. That's all right. This one's having a great time. Making sure that his overalls are kind of visible. And you can tell, relative even to the size of my finger, that this is a tiny Minion next to the dragon that I drew. I'll make sure those pockets are wonderful. Although they look kind of strange. Anyway, we'll not worry about that for a moment. Little tiny heels on those boots. Now, here's where I get to try to figure out a couple of things. We are going to have it with a comparable tail, I suppose, to what we have with Toothless. And this one will also have a tail, although it doesn't need to be super thick. And instead of like a tail that ends like this, let's change this just enough maybe they got it from a kite. Minions are resourceful after all. Now, use the same sort of strategy that I used, but I'm going to make the wings look a little bit different than Toothless. So that's kind of like the elbow arm. Yes, yes, yes. That's probably good enough for a glider. And then I'll figure that much out. Now, do the wings kind of similar. Fill in the overalls just a little bit. Now, so hopefully you're drawing along with me, even if you're working on other projects, just hanging out. And for those of you who just graduated, happy graduation, which also includes Hudson as well, and O, and Lex, and Tyler. Actually, a lot of people have made it through a school year and have got plans for an awesome summer, so that's pretty cool. So this is kind of fun, this part here. And it can be risky at the same time. Because sometimes when you're using ink, especially this kind of water-soluble stuff, you have to make sure your hands are dry and that you intend to have a spot with ink on it before you start to do this. Not that dramatic, of course. You can kind of blur out some of the ink if it gets too dark in one spot. You can sort of like dab it with paper towel or or something like that. Oh, you know what? Let's do this part of the tail here while I'm so close. All right, well, that's kind of fun. Let's go back up here to Toothless for a moment. See if there's any final touch-up stuff that I can do with that. Maybe a little bit more around this part of the wing. Go to this side here. I do find that an interesting way to look at wings, which is to treat them kind of like limbs, like, you know, arms. It kind of changes the way that you might think about the wings a little bit and how they might be controlled. At least for me, I think that's how I like to view them. You ever see those old videos of people trying to build flying machines, and somehow they thought that flapping their arms was going to be the best way for controlled flight, and probably didn't really think that, my goodness, it's probably not going to be so good if you get tired? Those videos are funny to me. Okay. Next, we'll go back down here. Hopefully this is dried enough for me to do a little bit of outlining. And then we're pretty much done with this as a concept of a funny idea. And then we can finally kind of move on. At least in my head, that's kind of what I'm aiming at. I'm a fan of the franchise, though. And I have yet to see the movie. So hopefully at some point soon. Some movies are pretty awesome to see in the movie theater. Just had another idea. And we'll see how it goes. And the video won't be that much longer. So, here's the idea. Now let's see if we can back this out. See what they look like flying together. That's kind of interesting. The idea that I have would be, what if we're looking up? So let's say you're like hiccup or your Gru or your whomever, and you're looking up at them, let's put in some trees. So let's have a focal point, let's say here. Maybe here? Okay. So it's almost like we're standing in the forest, let's say. I'm just going to rough in some trees. Just like that. And maybe we'll have one here. And like I said, we're going to have the focal point somewhere around there. The branches would be smaller as they get closer to the top. I don't know why I decided to try this. Just for fun. I mean, what else do you have a sketchbook for? If not to just test out fun little ideas. Let's do one over here now. Now, how do I want that to go? Again, focal point. Maybe one over here too. The woods are such an interesting place to be. If you get a chance, I encourage you to go out and, most of the time, if you can, take a friend with you as well. And take your shoes off. Stand next to a big tree. It's almost like when you do that, you can feel almost like static electricity leave your brain. And I think one of the neatest things that you can do sometimes, if you're feeling kind of like busy brain, if you know what I mean, is to hum as well. So if you have a little song in your head, just hum. That helps a little bit. I'm going to put a tree over on this side. I wonder if I should put a moon up here. Because I keep thinking about something, but should the moon be small or large? Should it be a crescent moon? Like a new moon? Let me dip my pen here. Let's just kind of put in something like that. It doesn't have to be too dramatic. Put in another tree back here. Put in another tree here. For fun, one last tree, but we don't need it to be as far out. So just sort of like a smaller cone down here. Now these are almost looking like super duper elongated Christmas trees, right? Which are a little bit easier to draw, I suppose, quickly than, let's say, a maple tree. Referred to as a deciduous tree. These are coniferous trees. They have cones and they stay green all year round, referred to as evergreens. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding some texture into that moon because I'm going to splash it with water, and then we'll let this video come to an end. I just dipped the the brush in the ink well, which I've done as well, but that wasn't my intention. So I'm going to let this moon darken in because I'm not going to paint the entire sky. Then after, if I'm feeling it, I can do something else with that. Ball in the sky. Now, which tree do I want to work on for no smudging's sake? Let's go to that side first as I'm working with my right hand. Some of the details are disappearing, but I wasn't super heavy with keeping that detail. These things are kind of just to remind you that there are trees in the forest from your view, if you know what I mean. Let's take care of these ones down here. Now I could add more and more and more, but the concept that we're working with here is that when you look up, you already know that you're kind of in the forest, so you don't have to do every tree. Sometimes those kind of details can take so much time. There's nothing wrong with putting time into the background stuff. In fact, in a lot of ways, that's very important. Sort of like, consider Spider-Man. Spider-Man is an amazing character, but some of what he's really, really good at only makes sense in the city. Now, I'm sure that he can handle himself quite nicely in the ocean, if necessary, or let's say in a desert setting. But it's pretty difficult for somebody who's used to swinging from building to building to be out in the desert. I mean, it'd be kind of disappointing not being able to swing away. But the thing about Spider-Man that a lot of us kind of forget about is how incredibly fast, like super agile Spider-Man is, how incredibly strong he is as well. There's even, you can find a comic where he managed to punch out the Incredible Hulk. Now, I don't think the Hulk was super angry at the time, but obviously took him for granted enough to let down his guard enough to get punched by Spider-Man. So there's a weird little bit of kind of trivia for you. Not always the strongest Avenger, the Hulk. But rage-wise, I don't know if you would really be able to take on the Hulk. So I'm just getting rid of some of those funny details. We're almost done here. 2 other trees to go. Now I was going to put in that other weird little dragon that I kind of invented a few videos back. And I could at some point in the future, but I think this is funny enough on its own that I could just get it out of my head. And I'm okay with doing that. If you get a chance, check out some of the other older videos, which is fun to do. Something that also is fun to do is to see some of the shorts that I've made. And weirdly enough, making those little shorts, you probably noticed over the last like month and a half worth, I've figured out little ways of animating the words based on the timeline, which is kind of fun, a little time consuming, probably a little bit unnecessary as well. But so yeah, check that stuff out just for laughs. So you can see snippets of the videos that, you know. Anyway, so this is what we got here. Is it unnecessary to have a painted in moon? Sure, but at the same time, that's the way I did it. I did it that way on purpose. All right, so I think that's it for now. And as you can see, yeah, we have the trees. We're looking up at them flying over. Actually, let me finish this off over here just for fun. Okay. I think that's it. We have done all we could do for now, and I think that's okay. Well, folks, I think that's it. And I don't know if I can zoom in a little bit more. I'll just hold that up a little bit more. And I'll zoom in on that a little bit just so you can see the face of the Minion. To me, that's funny. Let's see if it'll autofocus. Come on now. Well, I tried. Me and technology don't always do very well. So that's the Minion. That's Toothless. And that's it, folks. We'll get back out. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you at some point in the near future. All right, ciao for now.